These scumbags are taking advantage of this girl, but they have no idea how dangerous her grandfather is. The movie begins somewhere in a quaint Russian town where World War II veteran Ivan Afonin lives a peaceful life. The only person he has in the name of family is his granddaughter Katya. She is a beautiful young girl who is currently studying music and dreams of becoming a conductor. In the same neighborhood is a group of 3 delinquent young boys: Vadim Pashutin, local businessman Boris Chukhanov, and student Igor Zvorigin. They share a flat in an apartment that overlooks the main road. The youngsters devote most of their time drinking, smoking, talking about cars and women. Every Wednesday, the trio gets drunk, throws a party in their flat, and hires call girls as a source of fun. However, this particular Wednesday, they cannot seem to find any girl interested in partying with them. Their entire day is about to go down the drain when suddenly they notice young Katya walking on the street below. Vadim immediately reveals that she used to study in the same high school as him. The others then urge him to call her to their room. Despite being fully aware that Katya doesn't indulge in partying, Vadim calls for her. He then rushes downstairs with Igor and asks her to come with them for a second. When she hesitates, they claim that it's their friend Boris's birthday and only Katya can cheer him up. She still doesn't want to go because her grandfather is waiting for her at home. The boys, however, drop to their knees and beg her, creating a scene on the street. This forces her to accompany them, but only for 5 minutes. On reaching the apartment, she notices several bottles of alcohol on the table. Katya feels uncomfortable but sits down since doesn't want to seem rude. The guys offer her a glass and she asks what is in it. Boris, who is the eldest of the 3 boys, tells her it is Mexican vodka, referring to tequila. Then, all of them pressurize her to chug the whole glass in one go. The poor girl somehow finishes half of it and puts the glass aside. Throughout all this, Igor gradually gets closer and closer to her, putting his arm around her shoulders. Katya tries her best to stay composed and cracks a few jokes. While she's busy, Boris secretly mixes something in her glass. The guys start chanting, urging her to finish all the alcohol in the glass. Katya, who has no idea what's going on, gulps the rest of the bottle down. She then wishes Boris a happy birthday once more and gets up to leave. But Igor stands in her way and asks her to stay for a while. He tries to indulge her by showing her their indoor exercise machine. Katya ignores him and proceeds to leave, but this time, Vadim and Boris block her way. In a sickening turn of events, the boys finally show their true colors. They surround her and start to get touchy, refusing to let her go. Katya tries to appeal to Vadim, but the other 2 boys corner her into a bedroom. Their intentions are clear, but Katya can do nothing to defend herself. As the de facto leader of the group, Boris pushes her to the bed and tears her clothes. Igor then holds her down, while Vadim seems shocked by what's going on. As the 2 boys physically abuse her, Vadim gulps down a few more shots of tequila. He then goes in and forces himself on Katya without hesitation. A few hours later, it gets dark, as Katya has given up on trying to resist and is lying limp on the floor. The guys finally let her go, and Igor gives her some money to keep her mouth shut. On the other hand, Katya is so traumatized that she hardly says anything. She simply walks outside, throws the money away, and goes back home. Vadim expresses concern that they'll get in trouble. However, the other 2 are confident that no one can do anything to them, mostly because Vadim's father is a high-ranking police official in a nearby town. Shortly afterwards, Katya reaches home and falls to the floor crying. Her grandfather, Ivan, notices the bruises on her thighs and realizes what happened. He glows red in anger and asks her who did it. The poor girl blurts out the names of the perpetrators and sobs uncontrollably. Realizing that his granddaughter needs support, the old man guides to the bathroom, but he breaks the lock from inside so that Katya cannot harm herself while she is in there. Following this, the enraged Ivan heads out to confront the delinquent young men. He is marching towards their apartment when a fellow neighbor, Leska, stops him on the way. Leska asks if everything is all right, and the old man replies his granddaughter has been assaulted by Boris the realtor and his 2 friends. Leska is appalled by the news, but suggests Katya should immediately write a statement about what happened. Her bruises and blood can make important evidence in the court of law. Instead of marching to face the young men themselves, Leska suggests they call the police first. Sometime later, a group of policemen arrive in front of the apartment. Captain Kashayev gives his officers clear order. As soon as they get inside, the alleged criminals are to be separated from one another. This way, they cannot make up fake stories that match with each other. Moments later, The officers barge into the apartment and climb up to the floor where the perverts live. The captain takes his shirt off and pretends to be the building's landlord. He makes a lie and says he is here to complain about a few things. A drunk Vadim opens the door and the officers immediately force their way in. Once inside, the officers follow their order by taking the 3 suspects to different rooms. Captain Vashayev himself questions Vadim first as another officer sits down to write the suspect's statement. Vadim, however, says whatever happened here was all consensual, but his claims are immediately disproven when a sub-inspector brings a bedsheet that seems to be stained by the victim's blood. An infuriated captain slaps Vadim, saying the jail sentence is not enough for what they have done. Since he has to follow the law, the captain then goes to the indoor gym where Boris is handcuffed. The suspect is extremely cocky and doesn't seem fazed by what's happening. He refuses to give any statement or sign on any documents, provoking the police officer even more. Thus, the captain chillingly asks his deputy to remove Boris's handcuffs. The suspect will be transported to a prison where murderers and prisoners with life sentences are kept. When they realize that Boris has assaulted a young girl, all the criminals will use him as an object to pleasure themselves. This is enough to break Boris, who immediately confesses to their crimes and gives an official statement. Following this, Captain Kashayev heads to the living room where a drunk Igor is sitting comfortably. There are alcohol bottles everywhere, and even DVDs of vulgar movies lying around. The captain grabs Igor's ears and reveals that both his friends have confessed to the crime. Suddenly, the investigation is interrupted by the arrival of Vadim's father, Police Colonel Nikolai Petrovich Pashutin. He meets the captain and immediately tries to assert his authority. Nikolai uses his post to bring the criminals to his office to handle the matter on his own. However, Captain Kashayev claims that the criminals have already confessed to their crime, and the police have found a sheet with Katya's blood on it. This means that they're guilty and will have to be taken into custody immediately. Just then, a junior officer discloses that the criminals conduct a Females' Day every Wednesday and have misbehaved with many women. Everyone from the neighborhood has confirmed that the boys are a bunch of perverts who need to be imprisoned immediately. Without showing too much emotion, Nikolai walks to the room where his son, Vadim, is currently handcuffed. The youngster is elated to see his father, but Nikolai lands a tight slap across his face. However, the colonel still insists for the criminals to be brought to his office instead of being taken to the local police station. Captain Kashayev refuses to do so and bluntly asks the colonel to hand his orders in writing. Nikolai walks away for the time being, and the captain orders his men to take the suspects into custody. The following morning, Ivan wakes up and is worried when he cannot find Katya anywhere. He goes around the house looking for her and is relieved to hear Katya's voice from the bathroom. Sometime later, the poor girl comes out and lays down on the sofa. She is having a hard time to even look at herself in the mirror as she feels disgusted by herself. Ivan feels awful for his granddaughter, but can do nothing to make her feel better. He wants to call a female doctor from a floor above theirs to check up on Katya. However, she declines, claiming that she doesn't want anyone to know what happened to her. Ivan reveals that the entire neighborhood knows because of the police search that happened yesterday. Katya is horrified at the thought and says she will never be able to go outside again. Now that everyone knows, she thinks that all her life she'll be known as the girl who was assaulted. Her grandfather promises he will fight if anyone even points at her. Later, the female doctor comes to check up on Katya and finds out that she's physically weak. The doctor adds that the young girl is mentally strong and will have to get over this trauma. She suggests Katya stay home and rest for a few days. A few days pass, and Ivan has now completely forsaken his social life. He spends most of his days at home with his granddaughter. He urges Katya to record a statement asking the 3 criminals to be prosecuted as harshly as possible. With her grandfather's support, Katya goes to the police station to record her statement. Nearby, we see Captain Kashayev, who seems to be frustrated for some reason. On the other hand, Ivan and Katya reach the police station to print a formal complaint. The officer handling the appeals, however, also turns out to be on Nikolai's payroll. He laughs at Katya's story, and in turn accuses her of being too friendly with the guys. He believes that she went to their apartment on purpose and had physical relations with them so that one of them could marry her. Heartbroken by this accusation, Katya later tells her grandfather that she has no strength to fight for justice and wants to forget everything. As if this wasn't bad enough, Ivan finds the 3 criminals hanging in the neighborhood in Boris's car. They don't have an ounce of remorse and cruelly laugh on the old man's face. Ivan approaches them, and when the guys ask him what he wants, Ivan comments that he's memorizing their faces. Following the encounter, Ivan goes to his old friend and a judge to ask for his help. The latter reads Katya's file and says the evidence in her support was acquired by illegal methods. The case also seems to have been shut because of the lack of proper evidence against the three suspects. Furthermore, the judge says Ivan should have raised Katya better so she wouldn't get into a room with multiple men. Ivan curses him and walks away, finally deciding to take matters into his own hands. After that, the old man visits a realtor and sells his farmhouse for $5,000. He plans to use the money to take revenge on the criminals. That afternoon, when he returns home, Katya tells him that Vadim's father, Nikolai, had come to the house to hand her an envelope of money. A furious Ivan runs to Nikolai's house and throws the envelope in his face. Later, Katya informs Ivan that her aunt has left them the keys to her apartment to take care of her birds. Ivan goes to said apartment and sees that the criminal's apartment is right in front. He wants to take advantage of the place to take revenge. Following this, Ivan goes to the market and meets an official weapons seller who tries to sell him pistols and revolvers. When the old man asks for a rifle, the man seems nervous and says he refuses to have anything like that. Ivan is about to leave, but another seller approaches him and reveals that he overheard his conversation. He claims to have the stuff that Ivan wants and is willing to sell it for the right price. Shortly afterwards, Ivan is driven to a secret location where the sellers introduce him to several guns. One SVD sniper rifle in particular catches Ivan's attention, and he buys it. Before leaving, he tests the rifle on a dummy and doesn't miss a single shot. The gun is also equipped with a silencer, which makes the seller believe he's getting it for illegal purposes. On returning home in the evening, Ivan sees that Katya's mother has returned from Turkey with a new boyfriend. She's never really been present in Katya's life, busy enjoying her life with her boyfriends. Initially, she gives them gifts and seems genuinely happy to be back. She also urges her daughter to forget what happened and live life happily. But a few hours later, she tells Ivan that she needs some money. Ivan figures out that she only returned to ask for money and not for Katya. When he calls her out for it, the woman admits it and threatens to take money from Vadim's father, Nikolai, instead. In a fit of rage, Ivan throws her out of the house, ordering her to never show her face again. The next morning, he goes to his neighborhood friends playing chess in a park. When he notices the guys entering their apartment, he secretly goes to Katya's aunt's place, which has the perfect view of their living room. Using the rifle, he shoots Boris right in the crotch, castrating him in an instant. Right after, he hides the gun and returns back to his friends, acting like nothing happened. Somewhere else, Boris is rushed to the hospital by his friends. Later, Nikolai is with Vadim and Igor, asking them what exactly happened. He thinks that the guys were playing with guns and accidentally hit Boris. The two deny the claims, insisting that they were just talking. Nikolai asks them to be careful, suspecting that someone is trying to take revenge on all three of them. Meanwhile, the police starts to suspect that Ivan is behind the shooting since he has the perfect reason to seek revenge. The inspector knows that sooner or later, Nikolai will come for Ivan. A few days later, Ivan again goes to Katya's aunt's place, this time to target Igor. Igor is inside his car listening to a song with no care in the world. Ivan shoots the car's gas tank, making it explode. Igor runs outside with his lower body in flames. People nearby save him, but the accident causes the entire lower half of his body to get third-degree burns, to the point he cannot stand anymore. Now Nikolai is sure that his son is the next target. He tells Vadim to be careful and barricade the house because the shooter might find him anywhere at any time. The thought scares Vadim and makes him paranoid. On the other hand, Captain Kashayev goes to Katya's house to meet Ivan and talk to him about the accidents. He can't find Ivan in the house, but Katya discloses that he often goes to her aunt's house to take care of the birds. The captain realizes that said house is right opposite Boris's apartment where the accidents took place. He secretly pockets the keys to Katya's aunt's apartment to check if his suspicion is true. At the same time, Nikolai and his fellow corrupt policemen come to Ivan's house with a search warrant. They're sure that he was behind the accidents and want to check for the rifle. However, on searching the entire house, they find nothing. Just then, Katya's aunt knocks on the door asking for her keys. The policemen decide to check her apartment as well. Ivan is nervous because he has hidden the rifle in her place, but to his surprise, the police search every corner and still cannot find it. Nikolai asks Ivan for the last time to not harm his son, to which the old replies that something has already happened to him. Nikolai takes it literally and runs to check on Vadim. After he leaves, Ivan clarifies that he has done nothing to Vadim. But him becoming a delinquent criminal clearly shows something has happened to him. When Nikolai reaches home, he bangs on the door asking Vadim to open it. Vadim, however, shoots his own father through the door, thinking that he's a killer. It turns out that after days of fright, he has lost his sanity. The police officers bring a psychiatrist for him, but the hopes of his recovery are low. Then we see Captain Kashayev invite Ivan to his house and tell him that he had confiscated the rifle before the police could find it. He knows that the boys were at fault and hence leaves Ivan with just a warning. In the last scene, Ivan returns home to see his granddaughter singing a beautiful song, indicating that she is healing slowly from the incident.